And welcome to the February 12th City Commission meeting for the City of Tallahassee. I am not Mayor John Daly, but he will be joining us. Today is his son's 16th birthday, and so he is at the DMV with his son, where his son is getting his driver's license. Let us pray.
And a check for the increase in his insurance costs.
Amen, amen. But we are, thank you all for coming out. We're happy to have you here today. We are very blessed to have our invocation that will be given by none other than Reverend Dr. Joseph Wright, pastor of Jerusalem Missionary Baptist Church here in Tallahassee, Florida. Reverend Wright.
Let us pray. Eternal God, our Father, as we, your servants, gather together this afternoon to engage in deliberation of concerns and issues for the good of your community and citizens, we pause to say thank you for this day. Thank you for the health, strength, and wisdom, and the ability to carry out your directions that you have so graciously provided. Thank you for all elected and appointed officials, all of us who desire to uphold diversity, equality, and inclusion in your institutional form of government. Bless us and keep us in your care and your divine protection. Our Lord the Christ and the people of God said amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Wright. We'll now do the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Thank you again, Reverend Wright, for a very timely invocation. We're going to now move on to our presentations. We will be doing a presentation for Black History Month, and I understand that there are individuals from the Meek Eaton Black Archives here to receive it. So if you would join us here, we're asking all my colleagues to join us down at the podium.
Good afternoon, Madam Pro Tem. Pleasure. It is certainly a pleasure and honor for me on behalf of the Mayor Pro Tem, and my colleagues on the Commission to present this proclamation recognizing February, of course, as annually African American or Black History Month. And we have representatives from the Meek Eaton Center at Florida A&M University that are here to accept the proclamation and for remarks. The proclamation reads, whereas the contributions of African Americans have helped shape and mold the rich history of our nation, and whereas African American History Week, celebrated in February, was created in 1926 in the United States by historian Carter G. Woodson, and whereas Black History Month was first recognized by President Gerald Ford in 1976, and whereas such knowledge can strengthen the insight of our community regarding issues of civil rights, the great strides that have been made in the crusade to eliminate the barrier of equality for African Americans and the struggle against racial discrimination, and whereas in 1971, the Florida legislature mandated the creation of a repository to collect, preserve, display, and disseminate accurate information about African Americans. The mandate created what is now known as the Meek Eaton Black Archives Research Center and Museum. And whereas in 1976, Black Archives Research Center and Museum was officially established by Dr. James N. Eaton, who lived from 1930 to 2004, a history professor at Florida A&M University. And whereas it was decided that the historic Carnegie Library on FAMU's campus would gain a new significance by becoming the founding home of the Black Archives. The center would go on to be recognized by being listed on the National Register of Historic Places in that same year. And whereas the archival collection is a wealth of hidden treasures that illuminate the rich tapestry of Black history and culture, the repository holds documents, artifacts, photographs, recording, and ephemera that offer insights into the experiences, struggles, and triumphs of Black communities across time and places. Now, therefore, I, John E. Daly, by the authority vested in me as mayor of the City of Tallahassee, do hereby recognize February as Black History Month, and it's signed by the mayor, John E. Daly, on this day, February 12th, 2025.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. On behalf of our interim president, President Timothy Beard, our provost, Allison Watson, and I'm happy to be in front of our immediate past president, President Larry Robinson. We're so thankful for this opportunity to be acknowledged here today by the mayor and the colleagues and constituents here in City Hall. We appreciate the work and the effort that has been put into the Mi'kmaq. We're only stewards at this time of protecting this history for years to come. And the old saying, what will we tell our children? And our job is to make sure that we keep the information available and preserved so that they can interpret that history for years to come. I'm here with my colleagues and staff, as well as our student workers, Terry Vale. We're certainly glad to let them experience this and share with us and feel this reward for the work that we do as journeymen in this field. So thank you so much. We appreciate you and honored to be here. Thank you.
Our next presentation really needs no introduction. When you look around Tallahassee, you see not his fingerprints, but his handprint in a lot of places. A lot of places and spaces that when there was trouble or turmoil on the highest of 7 hills and nearby, they called the scientists to come and mix it up a little bit. And he did that. 3 times he served as interim president at Florida A&M University. And each time, Florida A&M climbed the highest heights. Well, he decided that it was time to let somebody else have some of this fun. And he decided to go back to his love of being a professor. And environmental sciences is his area. And, he's worked on the national scene and on the state scene and then here locally. We are just proud to have had him to be the 12th president, almost like a 12th disciple, Reverend, right? The 12th disciple of Florida A&M, leading the charge for students and parents and partners all around this country. When I talked to him a couple of weeks ago, he was in California, so he's still working. He's not retired, he's rewired. So he's still doing the good work. And I had the pleasure of meeting Dr. Robinson before he was president of Florida A&M University. I had the pleasure of teaching his daughters, he and his lovely wife, Sharon Robinson, daughters, in Sunday school. Yes, they brought their kids to Sunday school. And so they're now grown and in the world, but they came to Sunday school, so we know the lessons are in there. And they're doing great work all across this country. Dr. Robinson, it gives me great pleasure to be the one to do this. I wish the mayor could be here, but I know the two of you talk. But on behalf of the mayor and my colleagues here on the City Commission and the City of Tallahassee, it is indeed my honor to present you with, if I can get it out of the box, thank you, the key to the City of Tallahassee. You may applaud. Now, the mayor would tell you the whole story about the key to the city. Well, the mayor's not here. But the key to the city is very important. He doesn't give this to any and everyone. It's a very limited edition. And limited edition, Dr. Robinson and his lovely wife Sharon we have worked side by side to get some things done for the betterment of our community, for the betterment of the students who come through Florida A&M, and I am a graduate of Florida A&M University way back in 19-something, and long before he got there. But Dr. Robinson, thank you. Mrs. Robinson, thank you for sharing him. Thank you for rubbing his head when we were beating him in his head. Thank you for putting the Band-Aid on and, taking care of him so he could get up and get back out there and do it again. And he's still getting up doing it. So thank you, Dr. Robinson, for all that you have given, all that you do. Now, don't be alarmed because FAMU is not here. They're in Board of Trustees meetings. I was over there with them this morning. So that's where they are and why they could not be here today. But Dr. Robinson, you don't need a crowd. We used to call him, I called him because no drama Robinson. Because he got his work done with no drama. It's very quiet, soft touch, but very effective. So thank you, Dr. Robinson, for all that you've done. This belongs to you. You've earned it. We're not giving it to you. You earned it.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Dan Williams-Cox. I'd like to begin by giving honor to God, Reverend, for giving me the opportunity to serve Florida A&M University as well as this community. I was getting out the car downstairs in the garage. I noticed that there was a black Mercedes parked next to me. You're in trouble now because I got this key. So take that with me. I do want to acknowledge my wife, Sharon, of 40-plus years. We've been together for years. And those three wonderful daughters that Williams-Cox mentioned, they're off into the world doing some wonderful things. Thank you for helping them see the way. Thank you so much for that. I do want to acknowledge the mayor. We did talk extensively. I listened mostly. Y'all know how that works, right? But when he told me he couldn't be here, I was a little bit disappointed. But when he told me that this rattler was going to give me this award, I said, that's okay. You can go ahead and do what you need to do. But I do want to thank the city for your support of Florida A&M University. Over the years, there's so many things I've seen happen during my nearly 30 years, on the Hill in various capacities. From FAMU Way Extension, that's really been a wonderful project. Many of you probably don't remember, you're too young, when there used to be a ditch that ran along FAMU Way, Oak Canal Street and all of that. And then, of course, not the only thing, a whole lot happened in between, but I do have to acknowledge again a blueprint for the $10 million that were invested to allow us to renovate Von Wilson Bragg Memorial Stadium, right? It has made a tremendous difference for the university and for the community of people who come there to enjoy football and other activities at the stadium and of course, and whatever else that goes on the street next to it, right? Perry Street. We want to thank you for that as well. But I'm really honored to receive this. I accept this on the behalf of all of those individuals at Florida A&M University who come to work each and every day, work extremely hard on behalf of our students, our constituents, and on the behalf of this community. So their names, their hands and fingerprints are all over this. I could not have done my job without those great individuals. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Thank you.
Just as a reminder, during COVID, it was Dr. Robinson and his team that led the community in opening Bragg Memorial Stadium for us to go and get tested and be able to get our shots and all of that. So thank you for all of the work that you've done, and we look forward to the work you're going to do. You haven't gone anywhere yet. Put a detail on him, Chief. Make sure you don't leave town with that key. All right, we're going to move on with our agenda. Are there any announcements, Mr. City Manager?
No, ma'am. We do have one agenda modification, if I may share.
Okay.
Item 12.01, which deals with property acquisition for the construction of the FAMU Way Phase 4 roadway improvements. That item has been deleted from the agenda as an additional staff work is being done to secure that property.
Okay.
And there are no announcements.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for cleaning that up for me. I skipped that. All right, are there any appearances by city, commission, appointed boards, or committees, or any other governments?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Colleagues, that brings us to the consent agenda. Have any items been pulled from the consent agenda, Mr. City Manager?
No, ma'am.
Okay, what's the
Excuse
pleasure?
me, Mayor Pro Tem, we do have one speaker on agenda 8.07.
Okay. So what we will do then is, I know the mayor would normally pull that item, and then we will go ahead and entertain a motion to adopt the rest of it, and then we'll come back after the speaker to handle that particular item. That was
8.07.
8.07. Okay.
Move consent
Okay.
as amended, Madam Chair.
Second.
Okay, it's been properly moved and second that we accept the consent agenda with the exception of item number 8.07. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you very much. Okay, we will now take the speaker for 8.07.
Okay, Stanley Sims, you're the speaker. Just a reminder, each speaker will have 3 minutes. I'll give you a quick interruption at 30 seconds to let you know your time's running down. The yellow light may not be working, so I will be jumping in to let you know.
Stanley Sims, 1320 Avondale Way. I did have an opportunity to speak with the city manager prior to the meeting, and one of my concerns that I did not hear at the budget workshop is how is the federal freeze is affecting us locally. And I know in the previous year, we have received a lot of federal funding. Spoke with Artie. As of yet, there's no alarms. And it wasn't mentioned, and I wanted to bring it up, so, because I am concerned. The city manager did, as of right now, we're okay. But the other thing that, Mr. Manager, that I forgot to mention to you is, I think this is a nice time now to be talking about what if there was no FEMA? And we have, I know, and I may be pronouncing it wrong, a CAT fund, that we were talking about a potential CAT fund in case of an emergency. We're in uncharted waters now. And we have done, the city has done very well in doing reimbursements from the federal government. And so maybe I'm looking a little too far, but I think that it needs to be addressed. We need to have some kind of explanation as to where we are. Are we currently affected? Is it down the road? What it looks like. And so I wanted to take this opportunity because we're talking about FEMA funding. And that's something now that is quite questionable. And on all aspects of life, roads, housing, medical, federal funding touches our lives, especially the low-income individuals, touches every bit of their lives. And I think that we need to give me some assurance, as well as other taxpayers, of how this funding is affecting us, so we don't get a street committee to start rumors and distortions. We'd like to get it from you. And this is a good time to share with us how we stand. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sims. Are we ready now to entertain a motion to accept item number 8.07?
So moved.
Move staff recommendation, option number 1.
And seconded by Commissioner Porter. Thank you. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposes? Thank you very much. The consent agenda has been adopted. We'll move on now to City Commission policies. Okay, I was looking for you, Dennis. I didn't see you. You had behind the podium. The Audit Committee appointment will be presented by you, by Mr. Dennis Sutton, our Inspector General.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. This agenda item requests that the City Commission appoint one of its body to serve as the chair of the city's Audit Committee for purposes of selecting our external auditors. This is a little bit unusual for how the external audit or how RFP processes work. So if you'll indulge me for just a minute to give you a little bit of background explanation why we're doing this. The city's external auditor's contract ends with the completion of the fiscal year 2024 financial statement audit. Accordingly, we're putting out an RFP to retain new auditors, and there's some Florida statutes that impact our process for doing that. Chapter 218-391 of the Florida statutes requires that a member of the governing body serve as the chair of the auditor selection committee. Going along with that, Section 2-232 of the city code provides for the city's audit committee to be the external auditor selection committee to make a recommendation to the city commission to choose our external auditors. In light of those two requirements, we amended Chapter 2-227, or Section 2-227 of the city code to provide for a member of the city commission to serve in a limited capacity only for the selection of the external auditors as part of the audit committee. So this process now comes forward to ask for you to appoint one of your members to serve in that capacity as the chair of the audit committee. That appointment will end upon the selection of the external auditors by the city commission. The previous time that we put out an RFP, the mayor pro tem served in that role, which was Commissioner Richardson at the time. Accordingly, I'm recommending that we continue that previous process and have the mayor pro tem serve in that capacity as the chair of the audit committee. So that's my recommendation. Any comments? I'm here to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Dennis. Any questions?
Move option 1.
Let me see if we have any speakers. Are there any speakers on this item?
No speakers.
Okay. Commissioner Porter?
Move option 1.
Second.
Okay, it's been properly motion to accept option, and second to accept option number 1. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? By like same sign. All right, thank you very much. Thank you, I think, Dennis. Moving right along to the introduction of ordinances. Madam Attorney?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Item number 11.01 is the introduction of ordinance number 25-Z-06, an ordinance of the City of Tallahassee, Florida, amending the official zoning map of the City of Tallahassee. located on 10.3 acres immediately south of Interstate 10, north of Portland Avenue, and approximately 1,200 feet west of Old Bainbridge Road on the official zoning map of the City of Tallahassee, changing the zoning classification of land from single-family and two-family residential, R3, zoning district to Hudson Lakes Planned Unit Development, PUD, providing for conflicts, severability, and an effective date. The recommended action is option 1, introduce ordinance number 25-Z-06 and set the first and only public hearing for March 26, 2025 at 6 p.m. in the City of Tallahassee City Commission chambers at City Hall. Any ex parte disclosures concerning this item are available via the hyperlink included in the agenda item as published in the board docs system. It is my understanding that staff will give a presentation regarding this item, so I'll turn it over to the city manager at this point.
Thank you, Madam Attorney. Mayor Pro Tem, if you will indulge us, I think it will be beneficial to the commission, but as well the public that's listening here and on TV. Mr. White, our place director, can give a summary of this action. I think it's a good action. I think, again, I think the information could be helpful. So with that, I'll ask Artie to provide an overview.
Mayor Pro Tem, Commissioners, as the City Attorney noted, this item introduces the ordinance and sets the public hearing date for the proposed Hudson Lakes Planned Unit Development, or PUD. As she noted, the location of this, it's about 10.3 acres. It's adjacent to Interstate 10, about 1,200 feet west of Old Bainbridge Road. The property currently has a land use designation that allows up to 20 units per acre, and this would be a rezoning kind of within that, the parameters of that land use category. A couple of components of this PUD, should it be approved, it would allow multifamily development, and I don't want to skip over this too quickly. The multifamily development would have a criteria that requires it to have at least 10% of the units in that be affordable to families that make 80% of AMI or less, the area median income. So this is really kind of something I need to hit on. A lot of times we see affordable housing being a little bit higher in terms of AMI, so having units for 80% or less AMI is pretty significant. So I want to make sure I note that. Additionally, this planned unit development is also proposing to include amenities that would be available to the public. So that would be pickleball courts, a trail, and there would actually be signage on Portland Avenue that let people know that those are available and that they're open to the public, not just for the residents of the proposed multifamily development. In terms of kind of transportation and looking at other components of this, we'll note that there's an access easement that exists today off of Portland Avenue. That's where the access to this development would be located. There would be parking on the ground floor of the multifamily development. And pretty significantly, we noted that there are bus stops within a quarter mile. We consider that to be what minor terms we call a pedestrian shed, a reasonable walking distance of the development. So it would be accessible via transit. And also Astoria Park Elementary School is within less than a quarter mile of this development. So pretty easy for kids to walk to school if they were going to Astoria Park Elementary School. For the neighbors, I want to note that the PUD would require buffers between the existing residential development and any proposed development. Those buffers would be landscaped and would range between 10 and 30 feet. In addition to the buffers, you also see on the concept map that there are a couple of easements as well as a retaining wall and some other things. So the development would be kind of set away from existing development a pretty good bit. This did include public notification, as all of our rezonings do. In this case, we had 648 notices that went out to individual people living in the area, as well as the 3 homeowners associations. And so we always contact the homeowners associations so they can kind of spread the word even broader than what our notifications would reach. Again, tonight is just the introduction of ordinance, so the public hearing would be scheduled for March 26th. So this would come back to you for consideration at your March meeting.
All right. Thank you, Artie. And I understand we do not have any speakers on this item.
It's an introduction of ordinances, so we won't have public comment, but obviously, public comment will be available at the March hearing.
26th. Okay, thank you very much.
Madam Pro Tem, Amy, can we ask a question at this point?
Sure.
Madam Pro Tem?
Please.
Thank you. Just a quick question. In the public amenities, who will be responsible for the maintenance and upkeep of those amenities, Artie?
My understanding would be that the development itself would be, but I can
Okay.
confirm that and make sure that's clearly addressed in the agenda materials for the public hearing.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Commissioner Porter, did I see your hand?
Thank you. I was wondering, Amy, if you could, when did we stop taking public comment on these? Because we used to.
Right, I think.
And whose decision was that?
I think at the first of the year, the first meeting of the year, we did not. It's not a legal requirement to take public comment at the introduction. It is obviously a requirement to take it at the public hearing. The introduction is really just intended to be an introduction, a first reading of an ordinance.
Sure, and so who made that decision, though?
I think it was made by the mayor.
Okay, I know that the mayor's not here. It would be my preference that we still take public comment if people are here to give it. There have been several times where I've learned a lot from the public comment, and we've been able to come up with a better final product as a result of that. So I'll just share that preference, and I'll make that known to the mayor as well. Thank you.
Commissioner Porter. I think I asked if there were any speakers in. There were none, correct?
Well, we didn't take speaker cards, so if someone tried to submit one, this is simply an introduction.
Okay, so is there someone who was trying to speak on this issue, on the introduction?
I'm getting the signal that no, nobody.
Okay, I just want to be clear, okay.
thank you.
All right,
Move option number 1 is approved as recommended by staff, Madam Pro Tem.
thank you. I'll second it. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, any opposed? Motion carries 4-0, the mayor out of chambers. Thank you. We will now go to item number 13, our unagended speakers.
Oh,
12:02.
12.02.
12.02.
Policy. for-
Okay, okay, I'm sorry. I looked at the item deleted and skipped there, okay. Item 12.02, authorization to submit an application to the Promoting Resilient Operations for Transformative Efficient. I didn't want to go ahead and read all of that, but go ahead.
No, thank
With
you.
the city manager.
I like this better. Make my job a lot easier, but thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. We do have a presentation on this item.
Okay.
And I would love to invite forward Josh Hollingsworth. He's our manager of traffic operations. And so anytime you ask, who's in charge of those traffic lights, it's him.
Okay, all right.
By the way, you met him.
Yeah.
And Josh and his team do a fantastic job of managing the operations of our traffic signals. We do it for the entire community. That's the makeup of signals for the state, the county, and the city. And anytime you've been to the Emergency Operations Center on the bottom floor, the screens you see, the very dynamic fluid work, that's Josh and his team, and they do a good job. Not just managing the cameras, but also looking forward and making sure they're resilient, they're keeping up with modern technology, and that's what this item involves. We're seeking your approval for a grant application. Josh will provide the details. It would require a match of 20% that would be shared by the city, the county, and the state. And so with that, I'd like to introduce Josh and ask him to provide the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Manager.
Welcome, Josh. I don't know if anybody knew that was you, but now they know.
You know, it used to be that I would blame the red lights on my boss, and I would take the green lights, but now I'm the boss, so I got to take the red lights as well, I guess.
All right, thank you for being with
But
us.
yeah, thank you so much. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to come and share this. This is an item near and dear to my heart. I've been working here for 10 years in this role, and I love to see traffic moving smoothly and efficiently and safely throughout Tallahassee. I think this will set us on a good direction. With that, actually, let me go back one. We do tours of the Traffic Management Center often, and people will come through. And the first thing that I want to say to folks is how grateful I am for my predecessors and your predecessors in the decisions that were made 30 years ago to install the system that we have. I think it'll set the context, if I can talk a little bit about the history and looking ahead to where we're headed to see where this project fits in that. So in the mid to late 90s, I think I was in second grade, the decision was made to put in a modern traffic management system. And you can kind of see what that looked like, upgrading the cabinets, installing fiber optic cable to have communication with the traffic lights, installing monitoring cameras, 50 at the time, so we could see what was happening on the roadways. And then over the next 20, 30 years, we've done some additional enhancements to the system. We've added more cameras, so what was 50 is now was 100, and then since the last couple of years, it's been 240. So we've been able to enhance our reach as far as what we can see, what we can monitor. We've upgraded our traffic controllers. We've done some of these other enhancements to the system, which has been an excellent investment in keeping our roadways safe and efficient. We've also established, you can see there, a formalized process with the Florida Department of Transportation called Active Arterial Management Program. Essentially, that allows us to provide enhanced monitoring of our roadways and our arterials. That brings us to today, 2025, and looking ahead of what's on the horizon. And I know there's a lot of buzzwords out there, connected and autonomous vehicles, AI, machine learning. How do these things all begin to affect our transportation infrastructure? So I want to talk a bit about that before we move into the actual project that's before you, because the project's going to be foundational to some of those things as well. As you can see that slide, if you've ever Googled connected autonomous vehicles, you might find something like this. And it does a great job of showing exactly what we're trying to do with this technology. The idea is, can we live in a world where vehicles communicate with vehicles, vehicles communicate with traffic signals communicate with vehicles, vehicles with pedestrians? How do we build this interconnected web of information between the users of our roadways so that we can have safety and efficiency promoted in those things? Well, to do that, and these pictures are great to show that, but they don't show the backbone of how do we actually do that? How do we take these advanced sensors and take that information and get it all the way back to the traffic management center so that we can compile that data and run AI models and do machine learning and some of those things? You've got to have a way to pull all that information back, and it's got to be reliable. So that's really, I think, where I want to kind of move next. And if we're going to do this, it's going to come through partnerships and infrastructure investment. So I want to talk briefly on the partnerships. City manager mentioned this. We've already got agreements in place with Leon County and with the Florida Department of Transportation to operate and maintain our traffic signals so that we can have a cohesive system as far as our users are concerned. We've established the Active Arterial Management Program with FDOT, which has been a great success. But I want to also highlight some collaboration we've been able to embark on with FAMU, FSU, College of Engineering in this arena. And so I'm going to share a little bit more about some of those partnerships. With FDOT, one of the things, I don't know if you've been driving on Mahan Drive, US 90 between Walden Road and Duval Street, but you may notice a little radio at the bottom right picture that you see up there. That radio is connected with the traffic signal. It's emitting the information of what's happening at the traffic light at that moment. Second by second update of that information. If you have an onboard unit in your car that can receive that information, it can display to you information such as when the light's going to turn red, when it's going to turn green, other information that's out there. Now, right now, I see some heads nodding as that sounds pretty cool. The caveat, it's a proof of concept, so we're showing that it can be done. I do have one of the devices that can do that, but I'm not sure that all vehicles are able to do that just yet. But the point is the technology is out there, and it's come through this partnership with the DOT and beginning to invest in some of these infrastructure improvements so that we can learn, how is this going to work? How are we actually going to make this a reality here in Tallahassee? The next piece of this is some of the advanced sensors. So you'll notice at the top, those two pictures there, those are some views from camera systems that we have that we are bringing back to the Traffic Management Center. We've partnered with the college so that we can basically submit an application to the, or not an application, but a team to the US DOT Intersection Safety Challenge. And it's been wonderful working with this group of really talented individuals to figure out how do we take these camera streams, and if we can identify there's a car, there's a pedestrian, we know how fast they're traveling and where they're headed, we can begin to predict where they might be and if there's going to be a near miss, potential collision, and we can begin to harness some of those analytics on where are we having things like that beginning to occur. How can we possibly, at some point in time, take action on that, right? So that's some of the value and the benefit that these things bring. So it's been exciting to see this begin to kind of come to fruition, and we're looking forward to see what lies ahead as we can continue this research using our things from our local roadways here in Tallahassee. So I mentioned the partnerships. That's a big piece. But the investment in the infrastructure is another part of it that's really critical. I'll show a couple pictures. The one on the left is one of our traffic cabinets. This was one of the ones that was designed, as I mentioned, back in the mid to late 90s. So you can see the inside of that. It's very packed, has a lot of different components to make that traffic signal function. What we don't have a lot of is space. There's not a lot of room in those cabinets to handle these additional devices that are going to be necessary in the cabinet to make this connected and autonomous vehicle, emerging technologies, really a full possibility. We've also, you can see the fiber optic cable that you see there. How do we get all this information back to the Traffic Management Center? Now, we have fiber, and we can reach to a lot of intersections, but we need some additional components to help make sure that we can handle the bandwidth of all of that data that's going to be required, and that it's reliable, that we have a reliable set of data to make these decisions off of. So one of the things that we're working on today to keep our system resilient and reliable, as we all know, we've had a lot of experience the last year. Maybe we don't like that, but we've had the experience of working through our response plan for these storms when they hit. They take a big toll on the infrastructure. And so I wanted to highlight a couple things. Number one, you can see the pictures of the trailers with generators. That highlights our staff that are out there doing the dirty work of deploying these generators to keep the signals running, to keep that communication running, to bring that data all back to the TMC, and to keep the lights cycling how they ought to. It also, you can see our damage assessment team that we have brought together so that we can go out and assess the damages, see what's going on, and make our repairs as quickly and efficiently as possible. But again, it's only been possible for us to do that through those interdepartmental partnerships, working with fleet to keep generators refueled and to keep those traffic lights moving when we have these severe weather events. But what I want to propose today is how we continue to stay resilient for tomorrow, both for emerging technologies such as connected vehicles, but also for these major storms that kind of come. So what you see before you is what we're calling the Resilient Traffic Signal Cabinet. You'll notice right off the bat, it's a little bit bigger. It's actually twice the size, and it's more compact in its design. So what that does is gives us some more space to be able to include those devices that are going to be necessary as this technology continues to evolve. The other part of this is going to be the integration of a battery backup system. You can see that in the bottom right corner of that cabinet. This would give us a 6 to 8 hour runtime to help us act as like a buffer when those events do happen. Gives us time to respond, get generators if we think it's going to be longer than 6 to 8 hours. But you know, a lot of our outages, our electric crews are very quick, and they're very quick at getting power restored. And so that often is plenty of time to get that power restored. So those UPSs and battery backup systems will function as sort of a buffer for us. And then the last part of this is going to be our switch. So as I mentioned, a bunch of devices that are connected in the field. There has to be some way to route all that communication back to where we are at the Traffic Management Center, to do that securely, effectively, and to also be redundant. So these switches are going to give us some of that. They're going to give us some more redundancy, backup communications so that we can ensure reliable communications and reliable operations of our traffic signals. And then eventually, when we look at these emerging technologies, we've got reliable data that's coming in and the ability to make changes to our traffic lights based on that data that's reliable and dependable. So that's what we're looking at. And what's before you in this agenda item is the ability for us to go forward with an application to the federal PROTECT grant. What we're looking at overall cost is about $66,000 per intersection. And the goal would be to do all of the intersections kind of in one fell swoop. 359 intersections, that comes to about $24 million. That's a pretty big price tag on the one hand. But with the grant offering an 80% match, that brings that investment that we would share locally here to about $4.7 million. As the manager mentioned, we have great partnerships with the DOT, with Leon County. We've already got their support that we'd be able to kind of cost share some of those local agency match proportionately based on who owns the traffic signals. And it will allow us to continue to operate our system in kind of a cohesive manner and be able to take advantage and prepare for what lies ahead while we also deal with and address the natural hazard impacts that we just faced by living in the sunny state of Florida. So with that, I'll open to any questions that you may have. I know that's a lot of information to take in, but I love traffic lights, and I'll talk for hours if you have anything. So,
My God, look at the time.
yes, that's right.
Y'all bet you the highlight of the party. Any questions, colleagues? Commissioner Richardson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I love traffic lights, too.
When
But
they're green.
I see people run them a whole lot as well. I guess the question that I have, is the technology advanced to this point where we would not expect fatalities, for instance?
As far as autonomous vehicles, that
Yes.
sort of thing?
Yes.
Well, so as it stands right now, we're still experiencing fatalities with human drivers.
Right.
So when we talk about it, the idea would be, you're going to be able to accommodate some of those things with driver distractions and that sort of thing. Is technology all the way there yet? There's different levels of autonomy. If you get in your car today, well, actually 10 years ago, it would have been cruise control. That was an autonomous vehicle at the time. A lot of folks were kind of scared about that. Now everyone uses cruise control. Or you may have the warning systems that kind of come up when you're making a lane change. So when you talk about levels of autonomy, are we at that level 5, which is I get in the car and go to sleep?
Right.
Not quite. But we're going to continue to progress along that, and we've already seen that beginning to progress. And even a lot of those, short of doing a fully autonomous vehicle, getting the information of where pedestrians are. If you think about the idea of a camera that can look and see a pedestrian's approaching from this angle and your car's coming this way, well, the car's only going to have sensors right around the car itself. How do we capture that information, get that to the traffic light, and then down to a vehicle where we can give some advanced warning as someone is approaching? That's really the angle that I think I see in the most near term. The other part of that is the actual information. So right now, we know that there's potential for collisions and near misses that might happen out there, but how do we quantify that? How do we begin to actually put some numbers so that we know where are those hot spots? How can we increase education and things like that with folks? So there's a number of factors that all go into it. This is only one piece of it.
Yeah.
But that's kind of where we're at with it at this point.
Okay. Yeah, and I guess I asked that question in particular because I drive around the FSU and FAMU campuses quite often, and I see students crossing the street and they're doing this.
That's right. And one of the thoughts that are out there, again, with this idea of a connected intersection, if you will, is it's, okay, maybe we can't change, we would hope that we could change the behavior, but is there a way for us to even identify a user while they're using their phone? Is there a way to give them the heads up? We actually, one of these systems we saw on video here at one of our intersections, a very close near miss. And if the person had been on his cell phone, probably would have ended up being, a pretty severe incident. So the other part is how do you get that information out to show educationally so that people know when you cross that road, you've got to have your eyes up, you've got to be looking.
Right.
You've got to keep that awareness going on, both drivers and pedestrians, both.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem.
Commissioner I'm saying Porter, I mean Matlow.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I was just curious on that box in your vehicle, can you change the light to green?
Not that box.
Okay.
There is a box that can do that, but not that one.
That's a video game.
I think we all need those. I don't know. On a serious note, I think this is really cool, particularly the analytical. To Commissioner Richardson's point, the traffic fatalities we've seen, I think we all find unacceptable. And while it's no individual's fault, we do know through good design and good technology, we can reduce that to zero, which I think is a laudable goal. And I think this is a good first step. Mr. Manager, on the budgetary part of it, the city portion, what part of our budget will that be considered in?
Actually, Josh may know better. It's part of our capital program. It's in the UUPI department.
That's correct.
I don't have the details of the funding of it. Josh, maybe you know the details, how we derive the funding, but it's in the capital budget of the UUPI department.
That's right. Yeah, it's in our capital budget, and we would also be looking at it would end up taking, we estimate, about 5 years to actually do the work. It's a lot of cabinets to install. We look to do that with in-house forces. We've got the folks that can do it, the technology to know, or the understanding of how to do that. But yeah, we plan to take that out of our capital budget.
It's already identified in the capital budget?
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Porter.
Thank you. And thank you for the presentation. Can you clarify one thing for me? So our current cabinets, do they already have the connected and autonomous vehicle devices and processors?
Yes, some of them do.
Okay.
And in fact, all the ones that are on US 90 that have those radios, they're all the old cabinet.
Okay.
If I were to take you to one though and open it up, things spill out because it's really tight inside those cabinets. And some of those, there's other locations around the city that we would not have room to do that, especially if you begin to add the advanced sensors and the radios as well. So there's a number of layers here that all require individual processors. You think about Any of this data has to be processed somewhere locally and then even back at the traffic management center as well.
So for these new cabinets, they will have kind of the technology that is already available, but then additional space for other technologies that might become available.
That's correct, as well as the interfaces and the interoperability within there to handle, it is a changing landscape, and standards are, as they're being developed and things, so designed with more of a compatibility and interoperability idea in mind.
Okay, thank you. And then one question for the city manager, if you could speak, we spoke about this briefly when we met, if you could speak to some of the concerns or questions about the federal landscape and these grants, and how we're operating, and also what protections would be in place ideally to protect us if we enter in, if we receive a grant as it is a matching grant, what that might look like, if you could just speak to that.
Certainly, Commissioner. I think we've all heard, in fact, you heard an earlier speaker talk about the status of federal grants. I think we know, but it's worth repeating, right now, any action related to that, there's an injunction, so it's business as usual as we speak. We are extremely mindful of the threat that if we can't access the grants that are already promised or the future grants that we might achieve. So we're watching that very closely. And we've got a very, very good team. It's a big team. It's not limited to one individual. It crosses many departments. We're also supported by our other agencies and those associations we have things in common with. In the case of this grant, for example, we would apply for it. If we receive it, we don't enter into it until we have a contract with, in this case, the federal government. And that gives us some certainty, if you will, that we will receive those funds. In addition to that, we'd be very methodical in how we step through the spending of dollars and the drawdown of dollars. You heard our budget director, Robert Wiggin, talk earlier about that. We won't let those things go very long, because that's when you put those dollars at risk if somebody changes that. And so we'll employ that strategy. It is our intention. We've been very successful with grant funding over the last several years to continue to be aggressive. We've found a lot of avenues. I think we've tapped into a lot of things that we didn't know about before that we've become pretty good at. And I think there's a lot of confidence at the federal level with our partners at the various agencies, because normally the agencies are the granting authority. They have confidence that we'll deliver and meet their goals. And so we'll continue doing that. We'll be very, very careful to pay attention to what's happening, the landscape of things. And then as we're in the midst of a grant, we'll have a contract. We'll make sure that legally we can make a claim on that and then draw down as frequently as we can. That will be our strategy moving forward.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. And I would move for option number 1. If we're ready for a motion.
Okay, it's been properly moved by Commissioner Porter for option number 1 and seconded by Commissioner Richardson. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you very much. And Commissioner Porter, I'll just add that last week I had an opportunity to be in D.C. and met with our congressman, and he has been very helpful with the City of Tallahassee and spoke very highly of the City of Tallahassee and how well it's being run. And of course, he rents from us. He's right downstairs. And so he talked about how well the city's run, and we appreciate, I let him know we appreciate the help that he has provided for us to be able to secure some of the funding that we've secured. I was there with the Florida League of Cities, and the lobbyist at the Florida League of Cities is Becker. So we have ours, and they have the one for the whole state of Florida. So I'm sure that somewhere in there, they're all working together to try to make sure that we don't get cut out and cut off. So, so thank you. All right. Now, do we have any, did we have any speakers on this particular item?
No speakers.
Okay. All right. So now we're going to move on to the unagenda speakers. Item number 13. Do we have any speakers that are on any unagenda
Mayor Pro
item?
Tem, we have 3 total speakers.
Okay.
First speaker is Doug Hahn. followed by Harry Brown. To remind speakers, we'll have a green light. You get 3 minutes to speak. Hopefully it'll turn yellow. Either way, I'll give you a reminder in 30 seconds as your time's about to expire.
Thank you. I'm Doug Hahn. I live at 2072 Florida Avenue in the Glendale neighborhood, Tallahassee 32333. I come here today to speak to the commissioners and our fellow citizens on the cost of gun violence here in the city. In 2024, we had, oh, pardon me, my glasses are a little off today. We had 65 shootings with 26 deaths and 50 injuries. Robert Wiggins has proposed for the fiscal year 26 budget a total of $1.85 million for gun violence prevention and mitigation. I've asked him for details on which organizations and what programs and what cost level we're going to work at so that we have a greater understanding on the effectiveness and whether the programs are evidence-based or not. I have information that I can access from Everytown for gun violence that is based on that data for Florida. So it's not exact, but it's pretty close for what the cost of gun violence in this city is. For 2024, the total cost to Floridians was, for the 26 deaths and the 50 injuries from gun violence, was $430 million. A lot of that is cost of living items, but to the taxpayers itself, that boils down to approximately $15 million in criminal justice costs, medical care, $1.1 million for government portion of that, police, $4.7 million, but it's extremely expensive. There are overall costs to employers, to the citizens themselves, but for each death that we've had, if we put those money in, it costs us, the government, about $740,000. So if we can reduce the gun violence deaths here by 2 deaths a year, we will more than pay for the cost that has been budgeted. Thank you. I will add one item. It also costs each Tallahassee citizen
You have 30 seconds.
I'm sorry, $1,800 per year for gun violence. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker, please.
Next speaker is Harry Brown, followed by Stanley Sims.
I'm here to speak the truth and nothing but the truth, so help me God. I'm here to let everyone who is thinking of coming to work for City of Tallahassee what they can expect. I will share with you some things that I experienced during my entire 19 years and 3 months here with the city. I was lied on many times throughout my entire career. Sharon O'Farney had one of her staff members come to a kangaroo hearing and stated that I approached her in the parking lot underneath City Hall asking for sexual favors. A couple of months later, her son was charged with murder of a young lady by having rough sex with her. He is now spending life in prison for murder. And she was spared the electric chair because my niece was the only minority on the jury, and she pleaded with the judge and cried standing at his podium, asking him to spare the young man's life, keep him out of jail, keep him from being executed. She even pleaded with me, said, "Oh, please don't let them know I'm your niece, because if you do, they will fire me." She even knew the sleazy and dirty kind of people we work for in this government. And I wanted to speak to Daley today to let him know that we're still asking where this $1,500,000 are. He won't say anything about it, but I wanted to tell him today, maybe we need to go and ask the FBI. The FBI did a fantastic job when Scott Maddox was taking money around. And he spent 5 years, supposedly in prison. Another thing I had was the HR director, through the recommendation in the trash that her staff member had made for me to be upgraded to a higher pay grade. A white secretary retrieved it from the trash and gave it to me, while the HR director had told Dan Clayman that there had not been a study done. So later he called me, HR director, and her compensation officer into his office. And that's when I reached in my attaché case and showed him that the study had been done. That's when he asked the HR director and the compensation officer what were they going to do now that my study had been done.
Your time has expired.
Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
Next speaker is Stanley Sims.
Hi, 1320 Avondale Way. And I've just got to say, I've never seen somebody so excited about traffic lights. You must really love your job. I'm here for two more things. And the other thing, Mr. City Manager, that I failed to mention was, where does the City of Tallahassee stand with DEI? I think that it needs to be addressed. A lot of businesses, local governments are getting away from DUI. I just want to know where this local government stand when it comes to federal funding, DUI. You know, are you changing those policies? Are you making amendments to those kind of policies? I just think that that type of information needs to be shared with us. And the other thing I did talk with the city manager about, and that's about my good friend Curtis Richardson. When I saw in the paper that there was a possibility of that bus depot transit center being named after you, I was excited about that. And I was excited to the point that now that we are recognizing people before they die, that we can give them their flowers and they can see the beauty that they bring. I am 400% in support of that. His years of public service in this community. And I do want to clarify, the city manager explained to me it's a policy. Well, I don't know if it's a policy, it's just something they've done. But if that is something that could be changed, I would love to see that being changed. Just to give an example of that, Judge Akins. We changed and named the courthouse after Judge Akins. And Judge Akins was standing there with his wife and able to see his name on that courthouse. And I just believe that my good friend Curtis Richardson, city commissioner, he's done in the legislature, he's done on the school board, and here on this dais. I think that's the cherry on top, not to wait until he's gone or give the people the flowers where they live. Thank you for this time.
Are there any other speakers?
No, ma'am, no more speakers.
Mr. City Manager, you're recognized for special recognition.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Cynthia, would you mind joining us? I'll put you on the spot.
Barber, that is.
Cynthia Barber. Cynthia Barber, I believe everybody knows, for anyone who doesn't know, is the Deputy City Manager, and there's nothing that she's not done. She's in charge of essentially everything. I think that's a fair statement. And like all days, this day has to come, and I will say that my comments are with happiness for Cynthia, someone I've worked with for a really long time, and I've learned a lot from, and we've done a lot of good things, and some things that which we didn't have to do.
Don't tell it all
that were
now.
challenging.
Don't tell it all.
All good, but they were hard days. And so I say with happiness in a little selfish sadness, if I'm being really honest, that this will be Cynthia's last city commission meeting. Cynthia has served the city for 34 years and has been a public servant for 38 years, and she's earned the right to retire. And so I want to recognize her today for her last day, and we will miss her. We'll only miss her at work. We're not going to miss her because we'll stay in touch. And I just can't say enough good things about what Cynthia has accomplished with the city. And I appreciate the opportunity to share these thoughts. And I will tell you that, and Cynthia and I have talked about this, and this is important to anybody and anything they do. How do you measure yourself? How do you measure what you've been able to accomplish? And you don't measure it in dollars and cents and other widgets and things of this nature. All those things are forgettable. You measure it in that you left where you were better than you found it. And Cynthia has done that. And I'd like to thank you, Cynthia, for leaving all of us better than you found us. Thank you so much for your service.
Well, before you speak, I think there's some people up here who might want to say something as well. So we'll give opportunity for commissioners to weigh in.
Thank you, Madam Pro Tem, Mayor Pro Tem. Cynthia, I have, of course, served with you and a staff position longer than anyone else, any other commissioner on the dais at this point. And I can say you have been nothing less than a superb and stupendous city staff person. Your work has been beyond reproach. You've been involved in the community. You're accessible to the citizens of this city. We could not have gotten to where we are, I can't imagine, without the work that you have done here with the city. And so we thank you for all of that, for your 34 years with the City of Tallahassee. We are an all-America city because of the work that you have done and contributed to making her be the all-America city that she's twice been designated. Welcome to the retiree club. I've been there for almost 6 years now. I can tell you it's great. And so we just wish that you will continue to enjoy your time. I know you said you're going to have an opportunity to spend more time with your husband, who's also retired. So we just want to thank you from the depths of our heart and on behalf of the 4,000 city employees and the 200,000 citizens and, of course, our guests here in the city of Tallahassee for what you've done to make this community be what she is today. So thank you so much and enjoy your retirement.
Commissioner Matlow?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Government services isn't easy. I think you probably know that more than anybody. And to be serving since I think I was probably in kindergarten when you started first serving the citizens of Tallahassee, and to oversee so many different departments. I think when I first started getting involved in the city, you were doing the Green Print Project and those sorts of things, and to rise to the level and to maintain your integrity throughout. Serving different administrations, different elected officials. It's very difficult to work in city government and to have such a distinguished career, and an honor to serve, but also just happy for you to be able to go enjoy life, go enjoy what's out there. Take your time, you've earned it. Thank you.
I too want to thank you for your service and wish you well for retirement. I look forward to seeing you, if not before then, at next year's the city's annual retiree party. Everyone I talk to is like the happiest person in the world. I'm like, how's retirement treating you? And they're like, I've never been better. So I'm sure you will enjoy it, and thank you for your service.
Well, we know each other on many levels prior to coming to the city, but I want to just thank you on behalf of myself for being a mentor for me, coming in as a commissioner needing information, having attended meetings, but had a chip on my shoulder because I didn't get the information. Well, look at here. Denzel is in the room. Denzel Washington just walked in. Your Denzel. But I had a little chip on my shoulder because I didn't have access to the information that I needed. And so when I came to the city as a commissioner, you, the city manager, and staff, I learned were valuable assets to get that information that was needed to be able to make decisions and to be able to communicate to the community. There were many times when we would strategize on community issues, and then we'd say, who can we send out there to talk to the community? We looked around, it was Cynthia that went out there. So you didn't shy away from it because your integrity is impeccable. You say what you mean, and you mean what you say. You respect others, and you expect to be respected by others. And I've seen what happens when they cross that line. So I just thank you for being who you are. Continue to be who you are. I know you will be. You've always been, since I've known you, 30-plus years. And I look forward to continuing to working with you in the community. And I know Tony's been retired, and he probably got a list of honey-do things he needs you to do. Or you got a list for him to do. Y'all are do them together now with Jay's permission. So thank you again for all that you have done, all the sacrifices that you've made, the late-night conversations we've had because there's been a shooting or there's been a something, and I'm trying to get information to find out what's going on. Thank you for taking those calls, because what would happen is I call you and Reese, and sometimes I got you both, but sometimes I only got one of you because sometimes Reese went to sleep. And so thank you for all that you've done and for leading the police department, Tallahassee Police Department, and the Tallahassee Fire Department. You know, I won't say it here, but in some place they will call you a bad A, you know what? Because that's what you've done the hard work, and you didn't shy away from it. So we thank you. We celebrate you in your retirement, and thank you, because I know you want to go earlier. I still got scabs on my knees from begging you to stay, because we needed to get our city more stabilized, and we've done that. So thank you. Thank you, Cynthia Barber, Solomon Barber. I was trying to get that middle name, Cynthia Solomon Barber. A long tradition of civil service, public service in your family, your dad being a police officer here in the city of Tallahassee, one of the first black police officers. You pointed him out, his picture's in TPD. And we really appreciate what you and your family have sacrificed. And Godspeed, travel, enjoy yourself. Let me know when the girls' cruise gonna be. I try to get out there with you and Cynthia, the Cynthia and Cynthias. We get out there together. Thank you so very much for all that you've done. And we applaud you again. God bless you.
Okay, I would say I'm speechless, but you wouldn't believe that.
I wouldn't believe that.
I just would like to first thank the city manager for all of your support for all the years. We've worked together over 20 years in different capacities. So I thank you for entrusting me to serve as your second in command for the capital city of the state of Florida. I appreciate it. I appreciate the trust that you instilled in me in doing that job. I'd like to thank the commissioners. I'd like to thank the mayor in your absence. We can't do the work we do without your support. It's important to the work that we do. To my colleagues, I've said it to you before. I would put any team anywhere in America and other places up against the Tallahassee team, and I know we'd outdo them. You're wonderful. You've made my job easier. I respect you and the work that you do. Our 4,000 employees who really make the work happen, I'm so grateful for all of it. I'm grateful for all of the mentors that I've had through the years who have come either as, they can be city managers, they can be commissioners, they can be meter readers. I've learned from every level of this organization. I thank you for our neighborhood leaders who step up and support us as we work to build a resilient community. So I am excited about retiring, but the person I really want to thank in front of everybody, because I thank him a lot at home, is my husband,
Oh.
Tony Barber. Thank you, baby. This work is not possible without the support of your family. Because, you know, people like to say that marriage and relationships are 50-50. Well, that's not correct. Sometimes it's 0 and 100. It depends on who needs the help the most. That person may have to carry the most weight, or they may have to carry all of it. And so I know there have been times when I slept on the floor as we waited to see if the IVR system was going to come up on time.
Oh, yeah.
So Les Pullen and I slept on the floor, on first floor, and made sure that at 8 o'clock, not 8:01, but 8 o'clock, the system came up. And if nobody else was going to be there to bring the system up, the two of us were going to work it by ourselves until somebody got there. So, honey, I know that you were there, and I was at work all of those nights I was missing. I was here. But I appreciate the support. I am not leaving Tallahassee. I love Tallahassee. And I have to also acknowledge the wonderful examples that I received at FAMU High School. And I don't know if you know the feeling of looking out of my office and being able to see the campus that helped to raise me and give me so much from the 4th floor of City Hall. I don't know if you know what that feels like. I can tell you it's a wonderful feeling because we had teachers who believed in us. We had people who told us if we worked hard enough and gave our job all of our effort, we could be and do whatever it is that we wanted to do. So to Dr. Riles, Ms. Randolph, Mother Mellock, Coach Williams, Johnny Williams, we retired a lot of people. Mr. Estrus, to all of them, I'm so grateful. And I love this place, and I'd rather serve nowhere else but Tallahassee. And I'm here. I don't plan to be coming back to commission meetings. I do not plan to do that. I don't even plan to watch them. But I will be rooting for the city of Tallahassee. I'm available if I'm needed. I'll probably be calling and texting on that little app, the Digitally, things that I see in the community because I actually have time to see them. My parents, I cannot forget them. My parents, Kimball, I think I've told you this before, both of my parents would have been your Tempo students. So to watch them work to become more and to believe in us, for us to become more, is at the root of who I am. My dad is not here to thank him, but my mom is. She's not here in this room, so I'm going to be spending quite a bit of time with her, trying to make up for the time that I haven't had. But I believe in Tempo because I've lived it. And I believe in all of you because I've stood beside you. So, city manager, my peers on the executive team, did they leave? Oh. I'm not gone yet. Guys, thank you so much for serving beside me for all of these years and for all of your support. Godspeed to each of you as well. Thank you.
And that is what you call a master class in class. Thank you again, thank you.
Gosh, almost made me cry.
I know, we got that's all of you. Get some tissue, somebody. Oh, my goodness. Okay, if we can, we're going to move on to sharing of ideas. Anyone want to have any ideas you want to share?
Nothing for me. I had a few things prepared, but I would prefer if the mayor were present to be part of that conversation.
Okay. Commissioner Matlow.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Just one for me. I sent out an email earlier this week based on, precipitated by actions the county commission has taken. At the last county commission meeting, there was a unanimous vote to rename the fairgrounds in honor of Commissioner Bill Proctor for his longstanding service. And I know it was a little unusual, and they recognized this, that the renaming was due to renaming a facility of somebody currently serving is a little unusual, but they looked at his long history and decided to look at their policy and consider it. And I think at the city, I believe, and I appreciate the response, Mr. Manager, but I would like to see if we could work together with you and our colleagues to figure out how we can make this happen, because I think it's important, and I think it's a unique moment that we haven't seen before, so past precedent wouldn't really dictate it. We've never had a facility that's frankly a game changer for a community like the Southside Transit Center. Growing up on the south side of Tallahassee, catching the bus, knowing the time it took to just get to the downtown transit center and spend an hour plus of your life to get across the city, to have that new facility come online, I think it's very important, and I think its credit goes to Commissioner Curtis Richardson. I think without Commissioner Curtis Richardson's service, we wouldn't have that project. I think we have that project because of his advocacy, the Blueprint Sales Tax Committee for those types of investments, and as well as the Orange Avenue corridor. So my recommendation was, when we do the groundbreaking, let's not wait. Let's name the Southside Transit Center after Commissioner Curtis Richardson, because never before have we had an elected official that had the opportunity to serve our community and sit on this dais in multiple different fashions for over 30 years. So it's not a one-off, let's do this for everybody who's ever served. It's just an elected official that served our community the better half of their life, while a groundbreaking will happen on a very important community project, and I think those marry together. So I don't want to put this on Commissioner Richardson. I know it's not. It's a weird place to be, to say, hey, do you want this or that? And that's not what I'm looking for. But commissioners, I would say, can we look at our policy, if we have a written policy, or if we need to create one to see how we can make this happen? Because I would like to work together to figure it out.
Is that it?
Mayor Pro Tem,
Yes, sir.
may I
Yes.
comment on that? Just for background, and Commissioner Matlow, I understand the nature of the issue, and when you sent the email, we don't have a written policy on this, but long periods of time, consistent practice becomes policy. And so we looked at it really closely in terms of past actions, precedent, things of this nature, and it was very, very clear that commissions of the past, they did observe that standard of, if someone's currently serving, they reserved that naming of a facility or a building until they were no longer serving. Not after they passed, but that they were no longer part of that. And there were a lot of reasons, numerous reasons, which I think stand to reason. And so, of course, I shared that with Commissioner Richardson because I wanted him to be aware of it, because he was aware of your email, so he knew about it. And so we talked about that. I wanted him to be armed with that information as any consideration was given. And of course, he can address this as he sees appropriate, but he agreed with that policy too. And I think that probably matters. And so I just wanted to share that, is that there have been a number of occasions, and frankly, I've been involved in the renaming, the naming of facilities for both former commissioners and staff. And I will tell you, that's harder than it seems, because you want to do it right. You want it to be special. You want to get the right facility or park or whatever it is. You want to do that right. And just recently, you'll remember in December, we recommended and the commission approved naming the clubhouse at Heileman after Jan Auger. I will tell you that there was serious staff consideration, discussion, I should say, prior to her departure to name that after her, and we didn't. We didn't do it because
we wanted to generally follow that rule. And just from my point of view and my experience, I'm glad we waited. It was extra special when we waited. And so I just wanted to share those. And I think probably everything I said would be thought of, but that's kind of some of the background, the kind of the consideration. So that's not to say things can't be named after people. It's just the timing in which occurs. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. Commissioner Richardson,
Thank
you want to say anything?
I would. And Commissioner Matlow, thank you. I thank you for that offer. But, you know, I have served this community now for, at the end of this term, will be 28 years. I've served on the school board, I've served in the state legislature, and on this dais for 10 years now. And it's not because I wanted my name on anything. It was because I felt strongly that this community could be all that she could be if there were people in elective office advocating for them wherever they lived. My wife and I chose to build our home on the south side of Tallahassee because we knew that there was potential there. And we both have worked there in our respective capacities to try to achieve that potential for our citizens, regardless of where they live. My motto has been that I want to see Tallahassee be an all-America city for all of her citizens, regardless of where they live in the city of Tallahassee. So I agree with the policy. I think it's a good policy and should stay in place. But like I said, I've never served 1 minute in any office that the people have entrusted me to have my name on anything. It's just for this community to be a better place for all of those individuals and their families and the visitors that now come here to the city of Tallahassee. But I do appreciate your thought, but I agree with the city manager that that policy should stay in place. Thank you, Madam
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem.
And Commissioner Matlow, I can appreciate your thought on that, but if I was Commissioner Richardson, if I was in his space, I would appreciate an apology from you for what you did during the election to him, and not name a building for him, but what his family was put through, and those of us who was out there trying to help him get reelected, because it was by the grace of God that he's sitting here and is reelected. So, I mean, before we start wanting to put names on buildings, we need to right some wrongs that were done, because his reputation was put on the line. His family had to endure that. He was called everything but a child of God. Hundreds of thousands of dollars was spent on helping him not be reelected. And same thing happened to me. I think that before we start doing those kinds of things, if we're genuine about them, and then we need to start with an apology, because we are colleagues and we're supposed to be working together. But when colleagues begin to work to unseat the people sitting next to them, and they didn't do that over at the county commission. I haven't seen any evidence of them doing that there, but it happened here. If we're genuinely wanting to extend an olive branch, as the Democrat called it, then we need to, an apology needs to be made to Commissioner Richardson prior to making a motion or making some a suggestion of putting his name on a facility. That's how I feel about it. But that's up to you and Commissioner Richardson. But his family was put through a lot. Commissioner Richardson was put through a lot. And the community saw that. They saw that. So I'll move on with my sharing of ideas. I am sponsoring an event on February 28th at the Bethel Family Life Center to talk about the state of our Black history. As we know that on the national stage, a lot of things are being said and done, and a lot of people are being afraid to do some things because of what is happening. And so we as a community need to talk about it. It is not city-sponsored. Not a cent of taxpayer dollars will be spent on this program, but you're welcome to come. It's free of charge. The speakers will be Chuck Hobbs and Darrell Jones. And the curriculum, the statewide curriculum that was created for teaching African-American history will also be shared. And that is on February 28th at 6 p.m. at the Bethel Family Life Center. And I just hope that as we see what's happening on the national stage, and I know someone asked tonight about what's the city's position on DEI. If you have to ask that question, then that means we need to educate you. We have an Office of Diversity and Inclusion that has been in place for years. So apparently somebody's not aware of that, because then we wouldn't need to ask where does the city of Tallahassee stands on DEI. And you look at our staff. Our staff is very diverse. We're very inclusive, and we go into our community to make that happen. And I appreciate the city manager and the deputy city manager and their staff for making that happen, because when I came to the commission, I said to the city manager, who had been hired just before I came on board, I wasn't happy about that because I wanted to be a part of selecting this city manager. But this city manager came in and stood toe-to-toe, and I took the org chart and slid it across my desk to him, and I said, there are not enough black faces on this org chart. I said it just like that. And he said, we'll take care of it. And that's what he has done. He has done that. And when we look at our staff, it's reflective of our community. And I'm very proud of that fact, because everybody has a voice, everyone has a choice, everyone needs to be at the table. Because if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. And I don't want to be a part of our community being on the menu when you have an opportunity to be at the table. So come correctly, and you too can be a part. I know there are folks who complain about, their employment with the city of Tallahassee in the past. Well, that was the past. We're looking forward to the future, and the future is bright for the city of Tallahassee. When we see young people coming here, like we saw the young student tonight, coming in here to receive that proclamation, our future is bright. The TIFLA program, the Tempo program, our future is bright. We're not just catering to a certain type of folk, we're catering to everybody. So our future is bright. Get on board, let's ride this train on into greater horizons as we continue to work together and respect one another. Respect is not given, it's earned. That's my sharing of ideas. We are adjourned until 6 p.m. for our public hearing, and so we'll see you all back here at that time. Thank you.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd love to call the public hearing to order at 6 o'clock on February 12th. First of all, Mayor Pro Tem, thank you very much for covering the meeting in my absence. You did a wonderful job.
My pleasure, thank you.
We have 3 items. 16.01, Madam Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item number 16.01 is the first and only public hearing on ordinance number 25-0-01, an ordinance of the City of Tallahassee, Florida, amending Chapter 9 of the Tallahassee Land Development Code concerning subdivisions, technical amendments, and limited partitions, providing for conflicts, severability, and an effective date. The recommended action is option 1, conduct the first and only public hearing and adopt ordinance number 25-0-01.
Great. Mr. Clerk, do we have any public comment on this item?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, we have one speaker, Thomas Spears.
Excellent. Name and address for the record, please. You have 3 minutes. At 30 seconds, the clerk will let you know when the time is wrapping up.
My name is Thomas Spears. I live in 32303. Regarding this ordinance, I actually don't know anything about it. It's really a matter that there's no on-agenda speakers after 6 p.m., so I don't understand how anybody is supposed to speak on anything else. Regarding the ordinance, what do subdivisions matter when people can't really afford rent or even mortgages or anything in the first place? When the budget came out this morning, or was presented at the workshop, over 50%, $76 million is going to the police. Imagine how much more beneficial it would be for anybody that needs subdivisions or not if a chunk of that was going more to housing. You wouldn't have to worry about subdivisions or this ordinance or so much other crime if the people could be provided with what they needed. Instead of being beaten over the head, why not actually provide them some assistance? Honestly, for this ordinance, it seems something that's out of touch. I haven't looked over the details of it, but it seems out of touch with what people actually need, like how many people are doing subdivisions, or is this for developers? I don't know. There really needs to be public comment after 6 p.m. because everyone works 9 to 5. I really would like for that to come back the way it was for a long time, for well over a year. That's it. Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
No more speakers.
All right, colleagues.
Move acceptance of option 1.
Option 1's been properly moved by the Mayor Pro Tem. Is there a second? Seconded by Commissioner Richardson. Any further comment? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes unanimously 5-0. 16.02, Madam Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item number 16.02 is the first and only public hearing on ordinance number 25-0-03, an ordinance of the City of Tallahassee, Florida, amending Section 2-21 of the Code of General Ordinances regarding appointments to the Ethics Board, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. The recommended action is option 1, conduct the first and only public hearing and adopt ordinance number 25-0-03.
Okay, do we have any public comment, Mr. Clerk?
No speakers.
Colleagues?
Move acceptance.
Properly moved by the Mayor Pro Tem, seconded by Commissioner Richardson. No further comment. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes unanimously 5-0. Item number 16.03, Madam Attorney.
Item number 16.03 is the first and only public hearing on ordinance number 25-0-04, an ordinance of the City of Tallahassee, Florida, amending Chapter 2, Article 3, Division 2, and Article 6, Division 2 of the Code of General Ordinances regarding the Office of the Inspector General and the Audit Committee, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. The recommended action is option 1, conduct the first and only public hearing and adopt ordinance number 25-0-04.
Mr. Inspector General, any comments, brief?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Very briefly, this proposed ordinance would delete duplicative language that has now been moved into the city charter regarding the Inspector General's office. It removes the city auditor from the existing ordinance, and it clarifies language regarding the operations of the Inspector General's office.
Thank you. Any public comment, Mr. Clerk?
No speakers.
Colleagues?
Move acceptance.
Second.
Properly moved by the Mayor Pro Tem, seconded by Commissioner Richardson. Any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes unanimously. Our next item, Madam Attorney.
There are no more public hearing items, but I think
This concludes the
I think
public.
Commissioner Williams-Cox may
Yep,
have a
Commissioner
motion
Williams-Cox.
related to one of the.
Thank you. Based on the adoption of one of the ordinances, we now have to reappoint Brian Smith to the Ethics Board.
Madam Mayor Pro
Move
Tem.
it.
Yeah, I don't want to do that right now. I want to wait till it's been publicly advertised so that people know it's coming as an agenda item.
Okay.
I realize the interest on behalf of the board to do so, so that he can participate as soon as possible, but I think it is prudent for us to follow policy, make sure it's properly advertised, be able to bring in public comment, and then we'll take a vote. There's no doubt in my mind that he will be confirmed. Let's just make sure we do it right.
Okay, no problem.
Okay? We stand adjourned.